guys, my name is Joey Pals, and today we have a massive project on the table. Have you ever looked at the massive roster of gym leaders and wondered which are actually the toughest? This is what this video here is set to figure out, as we're going to be looking at all the gym leaders, plus the trial captains and kahunas, across the 7 previous generations thus far to figure out which is actually the strongest. This is separate from my top 8 gym leaders of Blink series, which looks at the leaders in an overall aspect. Today, we're focused solely on raw power, so let's go over some ground rules. First up, let's go over scoring. The scoring system will go on a scale of 0 to 7. 0 is for little cup Pokemon, or Pokemon that are not evolved and do not rank in a higher tier, such as Cypher. 1 is for untiered Pokemon. Pokemon that are technically PU or an NPmon, but do not reach the usage criteria are worth 1 point. PU is worth 2, NU is worth 3, RU is worth 4, UU is worth 5, OU is worth 6, and Ubers is worth 7. If Pokemon is borderline, it'll be halfway between the 2 tiers in score. For example, UUBL is between UU and OU, so that Pokemon would be 5.5 points. Also, Mega Evolutions will not be included to be fair to the older generations, meaning the base Pokemon's tier is used. Spoiler alert, between this and the Part 2 video, which goes over the Elite Four and Champion members, there are only 2 Uber Pokemon. We will be using the Gen 7 tiering to see how everyone stands up today. Any ties will be solved by highest ranking team member down, and if that's stalemated, we'll be using the October 2019 usage stats in the highest numbered rankings. Usually 1,760 points, but 1,825 points for OU, so top tier play. Why October 2019? Simple, that's when I made the final version of the script, and that's the last full month Gen 7 had before transitioning into Generation 8. I should clarify that we are using Smogon tiers and Smogon stats. If you have any questions, let me know, as I did competitive play at a point in time. Anyway, the Pokemon of the team will receive a score based on what tier they are. These scores will be totaled up, then averaged to get our final result. This is for 2 reasons. We can give gym leaders a tier, and also because Gen 7 and especially Gen 6 ruined this formula with the first 5 gens. We'll discuss that momentarily. For now, the other 2 rules. Rule 2. We will be going off of the gym leader's best team. For example, Brock will not just have Onix and Geodude, but rather his most complete team, preferably in a later generation that incorporates Pokemon outside of his base region. This is so we can gauge the true power of the gym leaders, but also so that we can keep it as fair as possible due to the advancement of generations. This ends up making the first 5 generations of gym leaders use mostly Pokemon World Tournament teams, but in the end it works out, as that's a nice way to even out the previous generations. Finally, we will be going for fuller teams first. This means if a team has 6 Pokemon, it will be used over a 5 Pokemon team even if it scores more. If the leader never had 6 Pokemon, 2 sub-rules can be applied. The first will be in the highest scoring team field, where if that trainer has a higher scoring team with even less Pokemon, that team will be used. Additionally, for each missing spot, there will be a 2-point penalty incurred. This was decided as a good number of the Pokemon these days that were used are either untiered or PU, and is a good balance between harsh and relaxed punishment as to get a true sense of their power. Now, before we get to the regular gym leaders, I want to note that we will be putting Kalos and Alola in their own separate lists. This is due to these 2 generations missing Pokemon, and thus, it's not fair to compare a 2 Pokemon team versus a 6 Pokemon team. The first ranking that you see, which conveniently puts itself within a top 50 format, will go through generations 1 through 5. Generations 6 and 7 will have their own rankings, as even if I were to combine those 2, Alola would straight up blow Kalos out of the water, so may as well try to keep things even. Well then, shall we begin? Beginning with Brock, we have a slightly rocky start. Okay, sorry. Anyway, his team consists of the Little Cup Onyx, the Untiered Golem, PU's Kabutops, NU's Aerodactyl, RU's Rhyperior, and OU's Tyranitar. A weird spread, but one that works decently enough all the same. This team adds up to 16 points, giving him an average score of 2.67. Ash's other friend, Misty is next. Misty, unlike her other corner worker, doesn't bring any Little Cup Pokemon, but instead a capable team. With her, Misty brings the Untiered Lapras, Lantern and Jellicent from the depths of PU, Blastoise from NU, and of course Starmie from UU. The weird spot is Quagsire, which was PU in the original script, but as of writing this, it is UU. Due to Quagsire's strange tendency to climb up and down, Misty grabs herself a nifty 18 points, an average of 3. Coming as a shock to absolutely no one that's actually fought him, Lieutenant Surge doesn't pose too much of a challenge in the Pokemon World Tournament or in these rankings. With him, he carries a team half filled with untiered Pokemon, those being Raichu, Electrode, and Electivire, but also 2 decent threats, the impressive Magnezone from OU, and Evolution Jolteon from RU. Lantern rounds out the team, which again is from PU. Surge's team only sends up a weak Spark due to being so lopsided, coming out to a mere 15 points. The average, 2.5. Erica comes in next, and brings back a proper growth of power. She also happens to bring in the first borderline Pokemon, Vileplume from NU, being worth 3.5 points. Standing right above it is Venusaur in RU, which was also NUBL in the original script. 3 of Erica's other Pokemon are duds, those being Credilli and Exeggutor from Untiered and Abomasnow from PU. However, she did bring one shining star to the table, OU's Tangrowth. Thanks to that, Erica walks away with 17.5 points, giving her an average of 2.92. The sneaky guy he is, the 5th gym leader of Kanto, Koga, brings a slight power increase while using a team that isn't from the Pokemon World Tournament, as he doesn't seem to be invited. As such, we have to use his rematch team from Heart Gold and Soul Silver. There, he possesses 2 untiered toxic blobs named Swalot and Muck, a farting skunk appropriately in PU, and 3 genuine gems, RU's Toxicroak, the RUBU Venomoth, and the always reliable UU staple Crobat. Thanks to Venomoth being RUBL instead of just RU, Koga happens to also have 17.5 points on his team, averaging to 2.92. While the first 5 gym leaders aside from Misty stick to an average under 3 points, making them PU by scoring standards, the back half has some pretty formidable teams that go beyond that. Kicking off this trend is Sabrina, who actually rocks a pretty legit team in the Pokemon World Tournament. She only has 1 Pokemon under NU, that being the untiered Exeggutor. Outside of that, Sabrina brings to the table NU Mons, Slowking, and Sigilyph, the best evolution Espeon and Robotic Metagross from RU, and Alakazam from UUBL. These 6 Pokemon combine to make a team worth 20.5 points, averaging out to 3.42 for a solid NU spot. Blaine does lose out to Sabrina, but only by a tiny amount, possibly due to carrying a worse evolution. He ended up bringing that untiered evolution Flareon to the Pokemon World Tournament alongside PUBL's Charizard, NU's Magmortar, Arcanine and Ninetales from RU, and a Microwave from UU. Yeah, I don't get that either. Anyway, his 6 Pokemon do get him a decent score of 19.5 for an average of 3.25. But he has absolutely nothing on what's coming next. Remember how Giovanni, the Team Rocket leader from Gen 1, was the final gym leader and how he was a bit of a challenge? The same could be said for his Master Team and then some, with not a single Pokemon falling below even RU. Giovanni's only RU Pokemon is Rhyperior, which is a pretty damn terrifying Pokemon in its own right. His other 5 Pokemon are also solid, choosing the Physical Wall Hippowdon from UU, Special Attacking Monster Nidoking from UU, the Scarf Moxie Lord Crocodile from UU, the Everstolly Gliscor from OU, and once Uber Garchomp, which now resides in OU. These 6 all-star Pokemon give Giovanni a whopping 31 points, with an average of 5.17, making him the first trainer with an actual OU ranked team. Will it be the last, and will anyone come close? You'll just have to watch and find out, but that truly is impressive. Janine is the first of 2 trainers Gold and Silver introduced to the Kanto region. While she follows her father's footsteps in style, she goes far beyond him on the field with a much more capable team. Janine carries to the Pokemon World Tournament only 2 Pokemon her father carries, solid picks at that. You use Crobat and RUBL's Venomoth. She also brings with her NU's Weezing, RU's Roserade and Nidoqueen, and UU's Skyscraper Destroyer Tentacruel. The much more solid team gives Janine 25.5 points with an average of 4.25, making her the first UU leader. Maybe Koga should learn a thing or two from his daughter. To wrap Kanto, we have the former champion for all of 2 minutes, Blue. We could technically say we're using Blue's Gen 7 team, but he carries the same Pokemon both there and in his Pokemon World Tournament team, albeit with a much better moveset in the latter. Regardless, in both spots, Blue takes with him the untiered Exeggutor, NU's Aerodactyl, Arcanine and Machamp from RU, and 2 Pokemon sitting in UUBL, Gyarados and Alakazam. While a mixed bag, he does wind up with a total of 23 points, giving him an average of 3.83. Blue is definitely a formidable foe, and at least he has enough Pokemon to pose a threat. Before we move on to Johto, let's take a look at our current standings. Overall, a pretty solid generation to start off on. Giovanni and surprisingly Janine come out strong, while Misty goes from last to 6th between script versions. Speaking of, due to the update, Koga and Erica end up tying, so we get to see our first tiebreaker. Erica has an OU Pokemon in Tangrowth, while Koga's peak is Crobat for Mew, meaning in this case, grass beats poison. Now, let's head into Johto. While I don't really like Faulkner as a character, and while his gym battle with just Pidgey and Manchild Pidgey is laughable at best, the child really does turn it around to impress his father, especially when you compare Faulkner's Heart Gold Soul Silver team to the one he uses in the Pokemon World Tournament. Pidgeot is a joke as always without the Mega Stone, but Faulkner made a wise decision to taking NU's Aerodactyl and Xatu, RU's Honchkrow and Swellow, and Crobat from UU, appearing once more. These 5 Pokemon help boost Faulkner and his Pidgeot to 20 points, for an average 3.33. Moving on from Faulkner is a much harder gym leader in memory thanks to Cypher, Bugsy. Was Bugsy a boy or a girl? Hell if anyone knew in Gen 2. That's not quite what matters here, since we're more curious as to if Bugsy held up competitively with an expanded team. The answer is, not really, no. Scizor, of course, helps as it is UU, but carrying 3 untiered Pokemon in Shuckle, Pinsir, and Armaldo hurts, even if Bugsy tries to patch it up with RUBL's Heracross and RU's Yanmega. This half and half approach leads to a 16.5 point total for an average of 2.75, which is halfway good, I suppose, given Giovanni's score. Maybe slightly better. While I did say Bugsy is significantly tougher, because he is, if I were to say toughest Johto gym leader, the Mnemonic Cow Miltank and its trainer Whitney is most likely the first thing that comes to mind. Don't worry guys, Whitney's not nearly as tough with her best team, having the lowest score of Johto. The Demon Cow itself sits in NU, and to its credit reigns over most of its team, those lower members being PUBL's Tauros, and the untiered Ursaring and Lopunny. Ambipom sits alongside Miltank in NU, but Blissey ends up being the star here as it is from UU. That being said, Blissey's not enough to save this team. This combination of single-minded trash filler splashes Whitney with a dismal 15.5 points for an average of 2.58. To Whitney's credit though, in the original script, Ambipom was PU, meaning she was the bottom of the pile for the first 2 generations. And then there's Morty, a casual enough gym leader if you knew what you were doing by that point. He didn't really make much of an impact as he just carried 4 Pokemon from the Gengar line, and, well, Morty does something similar here. It's like Morty's fat classmate who barely changed the homework he copied, in this case Agatha's. Fortunately, he didn't bring his 2 Heart Gold Soul Silver Gengars to the Pokemon World Tournament, instead just taking 1 UU Titan, alongside fellow UU Ghost Beasts Chandelure and Frostlass, NU's Mismagius, and the forgettable Bennett and Dusknoir, both sitting in Pokemon's competitive retirement home untiered. Frostlass saves Morty here especially, as between script versions it rose from PU to UU, bringing Morty from 17 points to 20 with an average of 3.33. Not bad, Ghost Boy. What's there to say about Chuck? He's there to give a Medicine Island a second purpose, and he sits under a waterfall. Yay. The Gen 2 gym battle is literally a coin flip due to reliance on Dynamic Punch, but fortunately he forgoes that in later fights. Chuck doesn't carry any surprising Pokemon into the Pokemon World Tournament, bringing with him his old untiered Poliwrath and RU Machamp, the Hitmon trio with Top and Lee being NU and Chan being PU, and for some reason Conkeldurr, which sits in UUBL. Conkeldurr actually saves Chuck's team from having a pretty pathetic score, as it lets him reach 18.5 for a passable average of 3.08. Now, if only he can make the waterfall training useful. And then there's Jasmine, who shits on that mediocrity and throws it out the window. If you remember her gym fight, you remember Steelix after blinking some Magnemite. It was a pretty simple fight. Well, what if I told you in the Pokemon World Tournament, she took some notes from Giovanni and brought with her some powerhouses. Her staple Steelix, which sits in NU, a bit weaker than Giovanni, but check. Jasmine brings some legitimate powerhouses though, those being the terrifying Metagross and setup veteran Fortress from RU, the reliable Lucario from UU, and 2 OU Titans, those being Magnezone and Skarmory. These factors combine together to give Jasmine 28 points and an average of 4.67, the second highest total of all the leaders we've viewed so far. Jasmine is truly an example of quiet strength. With the unexpected power spike fading, we return to normal numbers with Price. There's not much to say about him. While he is the first Ice Gym leader, Ice was never a good standalone type to begin with. Sure, Price's UUBL Weavile is nothing to sneeze at, nor is his evolved staple Mamoswine from UU. But then Price brings 3 untiered Pokemon to the party here: Jinx, Dewgong, and Lapras. Cloyster awkwardly sits in the middle, being from RU, and all 6 of these ingredients mix together to create a souffle of unremarkableness with 17.5 points, with an average of 2.92. Hopefully Price doesn't break the ice with a fall, because his team won't help him get up. To wrap Johto, we have Claire. She's a Dragon Gym leader that just so happens to be related to Lance, which of course means she'll have a high score. But it's just not enough to beat Giovanni or even Jasmine. Claire definitely has some powerhouses with her, those being OU's Garchomp and UUBL's Dragonite and Salamence, but then there's her 3 letdowns: NUBL's Kingdra, NU's Dredagon, and the untiered Altaria. Those 3 letdowns contribute to only getting her to 24.5 points, with an average of 4.08. It's not bad, but it could have been much better. 2 generations on the books. According to our rankings, the Johto gym leaders actually make a pretty sizable splash, taking half of the top 10 and 2 spots within the top 5. That being said, we have a few ties to cover. Starting off at the higher ranked one, we have Morty and Falkner. Morty, who was original 13th in the original script, ends up beating Falkner pretty handily, while they tie in the UU Peak, with Falkner having Crobat and Morty having Gengar. Morty brought 2 more UU Pokemon to trump Falkner's next 2 highest, those being RU's Honchkrow and Swellow. As a result, Morty jumps 13 to 7 between scripts. We also have our first three-way tie, that being between Price, Koga, and Erica. Starting with Price versus Koga, just like Falkner, Koga peaks in UU with Crobat, while Price tops off with UUBL thanks to Weavile, pushing Price past Koga. It's not enough to stop Erica though, as she's got OU's Tangrowth, meaning Price takes 13th. Some notable jumps between script versions outside of Morty are Misty soaring 17 to 11 and Whitney escaping the bottom, going 18 to 17 to hand Lieutenant Surge VL. With 2 generations down, let's head into the tropical resort of sorts, Hoenn. So, Roxanne. Oh, poor Roxanne. Rock type was never exactly good to begin with unless your name is Tyranitar, but then Roxanne did this to the type. What does the former Pokemon school student carry? Oh, you know, just her involved untiered staple Probopass, 3 of its untiered cohorts in Armaldo, Credilli, and Golem, and then 2 only slightly passable rock types in Aggron and Caracosta which sit in PU. This gives Roxanne a whopping 8 points, with an average of only 1.33. The sad is, of the gens where everyone has 6 Pokemon, she's not even the lowest score. She does come close though, but yeah, let's move on from this depressing shit show. On the opposite side of things is Brawly, someone I rarely think about, but turned out to be the star of this region that features your dad, some twins, and a shift in gym leader depending on which game you're playing. His second gym team already posed some issues the first time he fought him, and Brawly continues that offensive pressure into his ultimate team. While he seems to have ditched Medicham, Brawly did keep NU's Hariyama and RU's Machamp, while bringing in NU's Scrafty, RUBL's Mienshao and Heracross, and UUBL's Breloom. On the cusp of power, Brawly hits a remarkable 24.5 points, average of 4.08. With that total, Brawly ends up tying Claire of all people. He does lose the tie due to his star being UUBL to Claire's OU, but the fact that Brawly can even hit that height to begin with is impressive. Watson is possibly the most disappointing gym leader on this list. He was never really impressive, but then you look at his Pokemon World Tournament team. Magnezone, Rotom Wash, 2 very good OU Pokemon. I like it. The rest of his Pokemon fall apart though, only bringing 5 points to the table. PU's Manectric and the untiered Electrode, Ampharos, and Raichu. This winds up giving Watson only 17 points and an average of 2.83, when it could have been so much higher had he grabbed something even along the lines of Jolteon instead of Electrode, or Lantern instead of Raichu. To be fair to Watson, Electric did not have too many options at the time of Gen 5, but everything just collapsed below him. Doing a little better than Watson is the only Uber holder of all the gym leaders, which inexplicably is Flannery. Funny enough, Gen 5, where this team is pulled from, is the same time her Pokemon rose to the Uber tier. This Pokemon, by the way, is Blaziken, which ends up lending Flannery 7 points. Chandelure from UU also lends 5 points, but then the rest of Flannery's team just collapses, kinda like Watson. Sure, Houndoom helps a little despite being PUBL, and Magmortar helps more by being NU, but then there's Camerupt and Torkoal, a Pokemon so bad that even after it got one of the best abilities in the game, Drought, still sits in untiered alongside the Camel. She should honestly ditch the thing, but familiarity I guess. Regardless, Torkoal lets Flannery down hard in the end, letting her result in 19.5 points and an average of 3.25. Then there's Daddy. Norman, the only father you see in Pokemon, struck fear into children years ago with his overwhelming slacking. Well, in competitive, the Pokemon's kinda trash. Sure, 160 base attack and 100 base speed sounds incredible, but when you can only move every other turn normally? Yeah, bad idea. Slacking understandably sits in untiered as a result, and unfortunately Norman's team doesn't do him any favors outside of that. Joining Slacking in the untiered shuffle is Bofalant and Saucebuck. NU's Ambipom and NUBL's Exploud join for the ride, and while Staraptor tries to bring the team up as it's part of UUBL, it's hard to save a team when your individual score constitutes for more than a third of the final total. Norman's blend of normal messes and Staraptor gives him 15 points, with an average of only 2.5. There's a reason why the saying is Mother knows best, and why she's the one to fear when you're in trouble. Dad's useless. Fortunately, after those three incompetent leaders, Winona does bring some value to the table. The truly classic Flying-type gym leader does have 2 duds in Altair and Tropius, both of which are untiered, but the rest of her team are pretty decent threats of their own right. There's Sigilif, which can be pretty nasty in the right hands on an NU team. Argy lends Winona Honchkrow, a Pokemon with great stats, priority, and moxie. At the top of her team is UUBL's Gyarados, which since Gen 3 has always been solid, and the permanently solid Skarmory, hailing from OU. With a much better blend of ingredients than Watson, Flannery, and Norman, Winona roosts with 20.5 points and an average of 3.42. Brawly and one other gym leader in this region do beat her, but given how forgettable she is for some people, it's incredible the power she holds. I have used the word forgettable a few times, but I think the most forgettable thing is that Tate and Lisa, the Psychic Twins from Moss Deep, actually do battle separately a few times. Pokemon World Tournament is one of those times, and as such they carry different but similar teams. Starting with the better score of the two, we have Tate. Tate's won with Solrock, which is of course untiered given it's a rock type and slow, not a sturdy one at that. Along for the Psychic Journey is PU's Claydol, PUBL's Gallade, Zatu from NU, Bronzong from RU, and Reuniclus from RUBL. This combination allows Tate 17 points, which is an average of 2.83. Lisa is just Tate, but worse, and also a girl. In common, they share Zatu, Bronzong, and Claydol. Lunatone just ties with Solrock, but wins in style points, and while Gardevoir beats Gallade by being RU to Gallade's PUBL, Lisa ends up choking it by choosing Gothitelle. This Gothic Lalita is untiered, meaning Lisa only gets 1 point from it. She just ends up with 15 points in the end, with an average score of 2.5. Not good, but not terrible. Just mediocre at best. Finally, we arrive at Pseudopolis, where there's 2 gym leaders we need to discuss. The first one is Wallace, the better of the two, possibly in thanks to him being a champion in Emerald. While it's not as impressionable as Steven motherfucking Stone, Wallace does possess a certain amount of charm, some of which he sprinkled onto the battlefield. The positives? His front 4 are pretty even with each other. Milotics from RU, Sharpedos from RUBL, and Swampert plus Starmie are both from UU. Where it falls apart is the last 2 Pokemon, with Walrein being untiered and Ludicolo being PU. This is getting a bit too statistical and monotonous. Can we have a Mirror Beast on for a sec, please, Gabe? Thanks! Thank you, we needed that. Anyway, Wallace surfed in with 21.5 points, the second best for the region as a whole, possessing an average of 3.58. If only his successor in Emerald was decent. 1 is a failure. Not as bad as Roxanne, but still a failure. The perks, aside from being suave at his age, well, Juan carries UU's Crawdaunt, which is always terrifying, and NUBL's Kingdra isn't too bad either. What is bad is the rest of his team, all of which is untiered. Walrein, Whiscash, Relicanth, and Politoed. These atrocities sink Juan to a mere 12.5 points, and an average of 2.08. Well, at least he could still be stylish, I suppose. 3 gens in, and while Hoenn as a whole was mediocre and hit some new lows, most of the trainers weren't bad. Looking at the results here, we can see Hoenn didn't have too strong of a showing, only popping up twice within the top 10 thanks to Brawly and Claire. Of course, we do have a few ties to discuss. Starting with the high and simple one is Flannery versus Blaine. As stated earlier, Flannery is the only one with an Uber Pokemon, so she automatically wins. Way further down the runs, we have a three-way tie between Lieutenant Surge, Norman, and Lisa. Starting with Norman versus Lisa, Lieutenant Surge caps at OU with Magnezone, a mark Norman Staraptor barely misses as it's UUBL, meaning Lieutenant Surge beats Norman. Lisa fares worse as her caps are in RU, so Norman beats Lisa. Aside from that, some more notable shifts between script versions. Morty flies up from 18th to 10th, knocking Faulkner out in the process. Misty soars 24th to 15th, and Whitney actually escapes the bottom 5, going 26 to 23. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's hop into my childhood memories and tackle Sinnoh. Now, I have to admit Sinnoh is my favorite region, and that Generation 4 is my favorite generation. The landscape is awe-inspiring. There's a lot of good Pokemon with some exceptions, and the gym leaders have at least one positive trait about them. Rourke had this with his gym battle by having the ridiculous Cranidos as his star. But then he forgot to put on the offense come the Pokemon World Tournament, it looks like. Alongside his untiered star Rampardos, he carries 4 more untiered Pokemon: Probopass, Crustle, Golem, and Relicanth. The only exception? PUBL's Archeops. I'm not sure how, but this combination manages to barely outsuck Roxanne. Something you should never do, otherwise how is she going to use the same trick she used in Pokemon School for Pokemon College? Anyway, Rourke's team comes up to only 7.5 points, which averages out to 1.25. To put his ineptitude in fuller display, there are some gym leaders within Kalos, the lowest scoring region, that score higher than Rourke before penalties with only 2 or 3 Pokemon. If you suck that bad, go back to your first job, in this case mining. Thank you, next Rourke. Fortunately, Gardenia decided to actually prepare herself for the Pokemon World Tournament, catapulting off a pretty challenging Platinum fight. In fact, she manages to grab more than double the points Rourke did, which would be at least 15, but hey, it's progress! But no, Gardenia got almost 2.5 times the total, with 18.5 points and an average of 3.08. How? Well, learning from her experience, Gardenia kicked Charm to the curb, opting to bring Ryu's Roserade and the untiered Torterra to the picture. She did also falter a bit in breeding the untiered Tropius and Leafeon, but this is where Gardenia blends some of the better Pokemon of the previous leaders: UUBL's Breloom and Tangrowth from OU. These 6 Pokemon give Gardenia a respectable total of 18.5 and an average of 3.08. Definitely not bad, but could be better. Brawling past the gentle flower girl is Maylene, a somewhat forgettable girl that managed to beat all of Sinnoh in one go. Maylene in her gym battles was never too difficult, with Lucario being the only thing you really had to watch out for. But in the Pokemon World Tournament, she brings a crew of verifiable threats. Returning from her gym are all 3 of her Pokemon, those being UU's Lucario, RU's Machamp, and NU's Medicham. She also straps on PUBL's Gallade, RU's Toxicroak, and UU's Infernape. 6 pretty solid fighting threats in their own right, 4 of which are Sinnoh, so good on Maylene. The total comes to 23.5, with an average of 3.92. Again, blanking her other 7 comrades in Sinnoh in the process. Not quite Brawly levels, but considering how much of a pushover she could have been in the Gen 4 games, it's quite the improvement. 4th on the table is Crash Awake. Now, the man was always more personality than a battler. The only thing he ever had to fear was Gyarados, which is 4 times a week to Electric. So in the main casual scene, it's pretty easy to take down. Well, the same used to apply to this team in full. Yes, Gyarados is brought back, coming from UUBL, but Quagsire also tags along, rising from PU to UU between script versions. And the untiered Floatzel comes along for the ride, I guess. Unfortunately, the other 3 don't do too many favors. Apollyon is brought in from UU, sure, but much like Gyarados and Quagsire, it's hampered down in the new entry field by the untiered Lumineon and PU's Gastrodon. The split in team value gives Wake a slightly underwhelming 19.5 points for an average 3.25, given his ingredients. Nothing too major. Could be better, could be worse. Fantina is even more disappointing, but that's to be expected when it comes to the ghost types. They have a few stars, but only one of those makes it to Fantina's team, Gengar from UU. Coming with her is fellow Gym Battle team member Striftblim from Untiered, and Miss Magius from NU. Fantina's 3 new picks don't help things all too much, as Dusknoir is Untiered, Spiritomb is PU, and Rotom is NU. Oh, Fantina. Vous avez fait de votre mieux, mais votre véritable force réside dans le salle de concours. Cela ne veut pas dire que vous ne pouvez pas vous battre, mais vous ne ferez rien de remarquable ici. Désolé, mon amour. Fantina walks away with a meager 15 points and average of 2.5, meaning she won't get first in this super contest. So, remember how Hoenn gave you a dad? What if I told you Sinnoh gave you someone else's dad, and both dad and son were gym leaders? Don't care? Well, neither do I. Byron's one of those characters that just exists for me. I don't like him, I don't dislike him, he's one of those characters that are just there. Kinda like Haru in vanilla Persona 5, like, yeah, I feel bad for you, but why should I care? Well, there or not, Byron actually scares up a pretty strong score, right behind Maylene actually. Sure, his Bastiodon is utter trash, as you'd expect, but the rest of his team, save for his Aggron from PU, does pretty damn well. Byron brings with him NU Steelix, RU's Bronzong and Fortress, and the always reliable Skarmory and Ferrothorn Annihilator Magnezone, hailing from OU. That team, especially the last two, helped grab Byron 23 points with an average 3.83. Not bad for a forgettable father in a weirdly plot-important town with a weirdly important library. Candace, on the other hand, is extremely memorable to me. Despite living next to Uxie's cave, Candace is the epitome of willpower and determination. I mean, have you seen what she wears while being so far up north? God damn. Oh, right, she's ISO, mediocre at best. Like Price, Candace carries strength in Weavile and Mamoswine. Frostlass from UU also carries the line, but Abomasnow from PU, and Glaceon and Glalie from Untiered are dead weight. The drag down gives Candace an ice solid 19.5 points, for an average 3.25. So, once upon a time, there was a leader named Volkner. He got told Volkner was very bored, so he did a quest for him, kicked his ass, and surfed away while thinking, nice guy. It seems the wounds of that ass-kicking stuck with him all the way to his ultimate team, which... yikes. So, you know how Watson had some pretty strong Pokemon but was let down by the rest of his team? What if I told you Volkner's only tiered Pokemon was Jolteon? Yeah. His other 5 Pokemon, which are Electivire, Luxray, Raichu, Electrode, and the always confusing Rotom Fan, are all untiered, blowing him to a mere 9 points and a piss-poor average of 1.5. Now, it's not the pure bottom of the barrel thanks to Roxanne and now Rourke, but that's still god-awful. The electric leaders at least have 2 more shots than Alessa and Sophocles, I guess. Good luck. 4 generations in, let's take a look at those standings and how Rourke and Volkner soiled it for Sinnoh. Yep, that's quite a bit of soilage by those two. The other 6 didn't do half bad though, with Maylene and Byron entering the top 10, albeit with no top 5 entries. That being said though, we have 4 ties to go through, including 2 complicated ones, so let's start at the top. Beginning with Blue versus Byron, things are actually incredibly easy. Byron carries with him 2 OU Pokemon, those being Skarmory and Magnezone. However, Blue manages to bring UUBL at best, with both Gyarados and Alakazam. As such, Byron beats a 5-minute champion, taking number 7. Following that is the first complicated tie, the 4-way between Flannery, Blaine, Candace, and Crash Awake. We already knew Flannery beat Blaine, so my first check was how Candace and Crash Awake tiebreak against each other, and, well, they're actually dead even, with a UUBL mon, 2 OU Pokemon, 1 PU Pokemon, and 2 untiered Pokemon. As such, I had to borrow their UUBL Pokemon, Weavile and Gyarados respectively, and dive into the usage stats for AT25 OU for October 2019. There we can see Weavile beating Gyarados, coming in 42nd to the Water Dragon 76th. As such, Candace barely beats Wake. As far as compared against Blaine and Flannery, they both managed to pass Blaine as his best Pokemon is an underused Microwave, but Flannery stops them dead in their tracks as no one is passing a Flaming Ultra Chicken. As a result, we got Flannery, then As a result, we got Flannery, then Candace, then Crash Awake, then Blaine. Our third tie is a simple tie, actually mirroring Verizon from Blue vs. Byron. Here, we have Gardenia vs. Chuck. The winner this time is Gardenia, as she carries a cap in OU via Tangrowth to Chuck's Conkeldurr from UUBL. The last tie is all the way down the totem pole, but we have Lieutenant Surge, Norman, Lisa, and Fantina. We already know Lieutenant Surge beats Norman and Norman beats Lisa, so we just need to focus on Fantina, who peaks in UU via Gengar. Lisa's peak is RU via Reuniclus, so at least the French lady beats Lisa. But no amount of baguettes is going to let her beat Norman, as he caps with UUBL via Staraptor. So we have Lieutenant Surge, then Norman, then Fantina, then Lisa. Finally, I want to go over shifts between script versions, where for once it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Starting on the sour notes, we have Gardenia. Gardenia actually squeaked into 10th place in the last script over Sabrina, but in this case she falls to 18th. As for climbs, Byron rises into the top 10, moving 12 to 7. We also have Morty going 21 to 12, Candace 23 to 15, Crash Awake 24 to 16, and Misty staying in the top 20, going 30 to 20. Now, with Sinnoh out of the way, we can make our way into the largest region for gym leaders and one that'll have some repetition, Unova. To Unova's credit, they did have an interesting mechanic in varying who you fight in the first gym depending on who you chose as your starter. It's something we haven't seen since, but it is a great idea. Kicking off, we have Chili, the fire-type triplet. His team, along with the other two, isn't the strongest, but he does have some interesting mons. Sure, half his team is useless, consisting of the untiered Simisear, Camerupt, and Heatmore, but the other three are pretty dope fire types, those being the NU Magmortar, the RU Arcanine, and the RU BL Darmanitan. It's not an exceptional team, but he did manage to hit 14.5 points for an average 2.42. Could be better, could be worse. Cress, much like the other triplets and a lot of the other gym leaders, just exists for me. I didn't really care all too much about Unova, and I didn't really talk to Cress ever, if at all, so yeah. Much like Chili, Cress has a lot of trash on his team. Simipour, Golduck, Floatzel, and Basculin all sit in untiered, which isn't good by any means. Yet, weirdly enough, he has a moderately good Pokemon in NU Slowking, and then OU's Azumarill for some reason. That interesting blend of ingredients only lands Cress at 13 points though, for an average 2.17. Again, he just exists. Last in the triplet squad is Silent, who took Brock's spot in the anime in very poor fashion. Basically, it's like store brand pop versus name brand. Sure, it'll taste somewhat the same, but you know something's wrong. Silent's team is kind of a mix between Chili and Cress, some weird stars, and a lot of crap. In Silent's case, his star comes in the form of an OU staple, Fairthorn. Whimsicott from NU and Lilligant from PUBL help some too, but 3 duds in Simisage, Jumpluff, and especially the It's So Not Coming to Galar, good job internet, Pokemon Maractus, all from untiered. Drag Silent down pretty hard. Just like Chili, Silent has a total of 14.5 points with an average of 2.42. Moving on to a possible racial stereotype is Lenora, a gym leader who can be just as scary as Whitney, but with way more immediate power thanks to Retaliate on Watchog, a fully evolved Pokemon sitting within the second gym. Her sacrifice for that plan was Lillipup, and weirdly enough, Stoutland doesn't make its way onto Lenora's ultimate, which is basically as varied as Cress's. Watchog is of course untiered, as well as Sawsbuck and Dunsparce, meaning already 3 duds. Audino and Kangaskhan don't help matters much as they sit in PU, but then she randomly has Clefable from OU. Fun fact about Clefable, it's the only OU Pokemon that doesn't have a single stat at or above 100. These factors, just like Cress, lend Lenora 13 points, with an average of 2.17. 4 gym leaders, 4 duds. You'd hope Berg, the bug-type gym leader and artist, would help since artists are known to be unique and whatnot. Unfortunately not here, as Berg continues to follow the path set before him. His point spread is actually identical to that of Chili, in that for his 3 untiered Pokemon, those being Leaveney, Vespiquen, and Crustle. He also has an NU Pokemon in Excelgor, RU Pokemon in Escavalier, and RU Pokemon in Durant. As such, for the third time in 5 gym leaders, Berg has a point total of 14.5 points with an average of 2.42. More of the same, I suppose, which is a gripe I have with Unova itself. Alessa finally breaks the pattern, but not in a good way, as she sinks to pretty low lows. While she's got a great stage presence, 4 of her 6 Pokemon are immediate cuts for any dance floor, those being the untiered Zebstrika, Ampharos, Emolga, and Stunfisk. Lisa's 2 reprieves aren't even that strong either, with Electra sitting in PU and Galvantula sitting in RU. These factors give Alessa a piss-poor 10 points, for an average 1.67. She's great on stage and as a character, but please keep her off the battlefield once you do her gym battle. Alessa's not meant to fight. After you skirt past Alessa, you stroll across a bridge and right past the saloon to find Country Boy Clay. You'd think with the pattern so far that Clay would be yet another pushover with some weak Pokemon, but Clay is weirdly stacked. I mean, I guess it makes sense for a ground-type gym leader, which houses a lot of good Pokemon, but he's still stacked. On Clay's team, you'll find Golurk from PU, Seismitoad from NU, Flygon for RU, both Krookodile and Mamoswine from UU, and the deadly Excadrill from OU. The team takes a bit to pick up, but once it does, Clay will go full force. Easily blasting away everyone so far, Clay picks up 25 points with an average 4.17. About time someone whipped these City Slickers into shape. It's unfortunate that Skyla can't keep the momentum from Clay, but then again, going back to the area the first 6 gym leaders were around makes some sense. Skyla, while gorgeous, is in the same realm as Alessa. Great character, not a good battler, although Skyla's better off. Half of her team is useless, as we expected of this region, in this case those Pokemon being the untiered Swanna, Jumpluff, and Drifblim. From there, she takes 3 decent enough Unova birds, those being the PUBL Archeops, NU Braviary, and RU Mandibuzz. This gets Skyla to a pretty stark 12.5 points with an average 2.08. Awful by every stretch, but hey, at least it's not last. Bryson Man needs no introduction. He's a nice type gym leader, so we know how it'll go. 1 star and the rest is trash. In Bryson's case, he carries UUBL's Weavile, something the other ice gym leaders had as well. The rest of the team, though, is yikes. Vanillue from NUBL is a terrible, but then you have Cryogonal from PU, and Beartic, Dugong, and Walrein all from Untiered. It's mostly thanks to Weavile and Vanillue that Bryson manages to get up to 14 points with an average 2.33. Only 1 gym leader above 15 so far. Well, fortunately, we have 2 dragon leaders coming up. Starting with the better of the 2, aesthetically and everything, we have Drayden, a man who will fuck you up if you step onto his land. His team will happily support that, as it's pretty damn strong with only 1 major falter. Here you see the usual dragon suspects for a dragon gym leader, the untiered Altaria, NU's Dredagon, RU's Flygon, UU's Haxorus and Hydreigon, and the UUBL Salamence. Scary enough, outside of Altaria, flipping it out for something along the lines of Kingdra would let Drayden beat Clay. But unfortunately, Drayden only reaches 23.5 points with an average 3.92 to Clay's 25. Meaning for now, the Godly Dragon Man will have to sit in second. Next up is Iris, the last black-white gym leader we need to discuss and the sad excuse of a replacement for Dawn. Damn that annoying Axew. Iris is the third champion on this list, with Blue and Wallace coming beforehand. And much like how she replaced Dawn, she has failed yet again. And that's due to Iris picking some weird non-dragon options. Salamence, Hydreigon, and Haxorus are all easy dragon picks, foes being UU-BL, UU, and UU respectively. But then, Iris carries with her PU-BL's Archeops, PU's Aggron, and the untiered Lapras? What is the purpose of that? Whatever her goals are, she still manages to grab 21 points, just behind Wallace's 21.5, with an average 3.5. Iris isn't terrible per se, but half of her choices are baffling, and ultimately land her a pretty flimsy score all things considered. Good for Unova, bad for champions. Unfortunately, even though we hit Unova's champion, or at least one that was the gym leader, we're not done yet, as Black 2 and White 2 brought even more leaders with it. One of these is Sharon, your rival from the first games. He ends up taking the normal leader spot from Lenora, and does literally the exact same thing points-wise. Sharon's main star is the pretty rad Porygon Z from UU-BL, with the rest of the team letting him down. Licky, Castform, and Bouffalant all rot away and untiered, while Stoutland in PU and Cincino in PU-BL only do marginally better. Just like Lenora, Sharon only hits 13 points with an average of 2.17. With Sharon though, we end up with multiple gym leaders that hit both 14.5 and 13 this generation, with 2 sets of 3 hitting each. How impressive. Roxy is one of those characters you wouldn't think about all too much normally, but she's pretty cool all things considered. She's a musician that brings you back to the Go Rock Squad days, and has a father that we see on screen that wants to be an actor. As a result, Roxy is one of a few characters we actually know the family dynamic of, which is unheard of in a Pokemon game. Fortunately, she carries the rhythm of the Poison Gym Leader pretty strongly, even surpassing Janine. Roxy's lead number is Scolipede, a fearsome bug that sits in UU-BL thanks to speed boost and impressive stats. Crobat and Amoonguss are right alongside it for the ride, both sitting in UU. Her other 3 Pokemon, which are RU's Toxicroak and Drapion, as well as NU's Garbodor, aren't too shabby either, keeping the momentum flying high. These 6 poison types rock Roxy up to 26.5 points and an average of 4.42. The best of Unova and surpassing Clay. When I started this, I was expecting Roxy to be pretty mid-tier, but she surpassed my expectations and then some. You go, girl. This one's for you. Who the hell is this man? Why does he exist? Why is he here? What is his motivation? What's his name? Doesn't matter? Oh, okay. He has a team and was an 8th gym water leader? Why am I not surprised? Well, his team looks just like a second draft of Misty's team, which is ironic considering whoever this is scored slightly better. Starmie and Quagsire lead this no-names team from UU, with Cloyster following closely behind from RU. Jellicent and Caracosta from PU, as well as Wailord from Untiered bring up the rear. He weirdly gets a pretty damn decent score, bringing in 19 points, up from 15 in the previous script version, and an average of 3.17. Now, if only this man actually mattered. Going chronologically, we begin with Viola. Viola herself is an interesting enough character, but her battlefield presence? Straight yikes. You see, she only has up to 2 Pokemon ever on her team. Using any of her Rich Challenge teams will give Viola her strongest team, which is just a Masquerain and Vivian. While Masquerain only yields 1 point by being untiered, at the very least Vivian brings in 3 points due to Sleep Powder and Quiver Dance shenanigans helping in NU. This gives her 4 points before penalties. However, as she has 4 open slots, that means she loses 8 points in penalty. This gives her a score of -4, and after averaging -2 since only 2 team members. This is exactly why I separated out Kalos alongside 3 other leaders in this region. It's not a good time and it's not a good look. Next up is Grant. Sitting in the same boat as Viola, he also has only up to 2 Pokemon at a time. Using the Rep battles, we wind up with 2 fossils, the lag-inducing but gorgeous Aurorus and Tyrantrum, who's like Rampardos but on acid. Aurorus hails from PU and Tyrantrum from RU. This gives Grant 6 points, but after penalties from having 4 open spots, he winds up with a -2 and an average of -1. At least he beats Viola, but that's not saying much considering everything we had before this region. We finally get a positive with our third gym leader, Karina. Karina, being the tough as nails girl she is, walks around with Lucario everywhere. That being said, she lacks Lucario or even Riolu in her gym battle. Plus, she has an LC Pokemon in there and even a non-fully evolved Pokemon. As such, while it's one less Pokemon, I decided to base it off the Battle Chateau rematch battles, where she has Hawlucha and Lucario. These two fearsome fighting types hail from the OU and UU tiers respectively, meaning Karina has 11 points. However, with penalties, that takes her down to 3, averaging out to 1.5. Sure, it may not be a good look compared to past leaders, but hey, at least it's a positive number, right? Following Karina, you'd think we'd continue a positivity train, but no. You see, Ramos is just the gentle old man that's strolling in next, and his team is a straight yikes, in a weird way. You see, we have two options with him, but they both add up to the same results point-wise. Option 1 would be to use Ramos' gym team of Jumpluff, Weeping Bell, and Go-Goats, all of which are untiered, adding up to 3 points. Option 2 would be to use his RIT rematch battles, which see him carrying Victory Bell and Go-Goats. With Victory Bell being PU, this would also add up to 3 points. We will be going with the gym match here, as it incurs less penalty points and a better average to boot. With 3 open slots on his gym team, it takes Ramos' total score to a -3, which averages out to a -1. Better than Grant, worse than Viola, and still extremely negative. At this point, you should 100% see why I moved Kalos out of the main leaderboard. 4 leaders in and 3 are negative. To boot, the highest scoring one thus far is still very much below Rourke. A sad cry from days of old. Clement falls into the same boat as Ramos in terms of options, but with better results. First is Gym Battle, which sees him carrying Emolga from Untiered, Magneton from UU, and Heliolisk from NU. Later on in the RIT rematch, he trades both Emolga and Magneton in for a shiny new Magnezone. Both of these teams add up to 9 points, but as a result of there being less slots open on the gym, that team gets the priority here for a better score. Clement does wind up with 3 points after the penalty, averaging to 1 point. 6th on Kalos' plate is Valerie. I never remember her specifically, but instead the Dollhouse. Part of that may be due to her having a forgettable team, with her best consisting of the gym team Mawile, Mr. Mime, and Sylveon. The 2 M's there are from Untiered, while the tanky Sylveon is UU. This gives Valerie 7 points, meaning 1 after penalties and an average of 0.33. Like I said, she kinda just exists in the vacuum of space competitive Kalos is. Moving on to a much prettier gym is the stunning Olympia, standing tall in her spaced out gym. She seems to have also spaced out when creating her team, as points-wise it slightly mimics Valerie. Olympia's best team sees her carrying around Sigilif and Slowking, 2 NU Pokemon that are interesting in their own right, and Meowstic F, which exists, as seen with its untiered status. Much like Valerie, Olympia's team totals to 7 points, 1 after penalty for having 3 open slots, with an average of 0.33. Finally, for Kalos, we have Wolfric, who, much like most of the gym leaders in Kalos, simply exists, but in a much more forgettable manner. The man doesn't even carry memorable Pokemon on his best team, holding the PU Ice types Abomasnow and Cryogonal, as well as an untiered Coffee Table. Coming in at -1 after penalties, his average is -0.33. With Kalos done, let's go ahead and display the results. Thank God we separated this region to allow Rourke and Roxanne to get the tunnel lashing they deserve. Here we see 2 ties, one for 1st and 2nd, and the other for 3rd and 4th. Starting with the more traditional of the two, we have Olympia versus Valerie. Here, Valerie kicks the mystical lady to the curb, as Olympia peaks at a laughably bad NU with 2 Pokemon, while Valerie has UU for a peak via Sylveon. Then there's Clement versus Karina. Karina here wins in 2 ways, the traditional and the one that actually matters here. If you notice, Clement and Karina have 2 different averages. This is due to the fact that Karina hit that total with 2 Pokemon, while Clement needed 3. This allows Karina to have a higher average and thus a win. Now, with Kalos' train wreck over, let's head over to a slightly less tragic state of affairs, and our last region of the video. We start this island adventure with Elima, who has a good amount of trash. Whilst the miracle may have been imposing at the start of the game, its untiered placement is not going to help here by any means. Gumshoes and Komala also joined the painter in that tier, giving Elima 3 points. That being said, if you remember all the way back to the start of the video, you'll remember I said there is a 2-point penalty for every empty party slot, and since Elima has 3 of those, that gives Elima a 6-point penalty to result in -3 points for an average of -1. Don't worry, this isn't a repeat of Kalos. Standing with Elima on the first island, which I'm not even going to try to remember the name of, let alone every other island since I played Ultrasun in French, is Hala, who sits in the Elite Four, so naturally he's going to have a leg up here. In this team, we see Hala ditching his Mankey, keeping the other 2 Pokemon around. That would be NU's Hariyama and the untiered Crabominable following evolution. Carded along, those 2 are the untiered Poliwrath and RU's Machamp and Beware. With 1 spot empty, Hala incurs a 2-point penalty, landing him 11 points at the end with an average of 2.2. Higher than some of the gym leaders in the main rankings, but that isn't enough to justifiably put him and the rest of Alola on the main chart. A lot better than Elima at least, but yeah. We hop over to the second island next, which had a fire, water, grass trio of trial captains. Beginning with Little Miss Alana, her 3 Pokemon team isn't that awful. Sure, Lantern is PU, but Cloyster and Araquanid are from RU, which help a bit against the 6-point penalty. She winds up with just 4 points though, with an average of 1.33. Lana was never meant for battling anyway, but hey, at least it's 7 points better than Elima. Then there's Kuwei, the fiery titan standing on the volcano. This team's actually pretty solid for a 3-man squad, grabbing both Arcanine and Alolan Marowak from RU alongside RU BL's Talonflame. After the 6-point penalty, however, Kuwei's left with a total 6.5 points with an average 2.17. If he had a fuller team, just like everyone else, Kuwei probably would have been a solid high mid-tier trainer, but instead he's left by the wayside. Following up is Mallow, a pretty perky girl who just wants to cook in the middle of a forest? Alright then. The interesting thing about Mallow is that she does not make use of Lurantis unless she's in the battle tree, opting to use the untiered Trevenant and Shiinotic alongside RU Zarina. Weirder still is at that very same battle tree, Shiinotic is not an option for her, but the other 2 Pokemon are. I'm not really sure why that's the case, but it's a weird oddity all the same. Anyway, Mallow is the first trainer to blank out, as she has a team worth 6 points, but incurs 6 points in penalty, winding up with 0 and, of course, an average of 0. Just a whole lot of nothing, I suppose. To wrap up, I don't know, Dose Island is Olivia, who is also a member of the Elite Four and thus will have 5 Pokemon at her disposal. Only problem is, just like a lot of rock leaders we've seen, they're not good Pokemon. Sure, she has Gigalith from NUBL, but the other 4 Pokemon she has, all untiered. Those being Armaldo, Cradily, Probopass, and Lycanroc Midnight. This slums Olivia down to match Orc at 7.5 points. But then she has 2 taken away, due to an empty slot, leaving Olivia at 5.5 with an average of 1.1, which falls behind Lana in average and Kuei in both fields. Good character designs don't translate well to the battlefield, I suppose. 2 islands down, 2 to go with Sophocles leading the charge. This Walking Festival Plaza tutorial has a bit of an edge over the other trial captains in his own way, as Sophocles is the only one that will challenge your champion title, and with a solid enough team to boot. Leading the charge, as seems customary for good electric leaders at this point, is Magnezone from OU. Joining the floating magnet are NU's Togedemaru and Vikavolt, with the untiered Electivire and Alolan Golem floating in the midst. With 1 empty spot and thus a 2-point penalty, Sophocles makes out with 12 points and an average of 2.4, squeaking right past Hala. Good for the short little guy. Joining Sophocles on this 3rd island while also holding down an Elite 4 spot is Acerola. Great character design aside, she holds down the Ghost type, meaning based on history, Acerola's not going to be all that great. And, well, you'd be right, if looking at the past. Her points leader lies in the Frosty Frostlass, with NU's Palisand and Delmise, as well as the untiered Bennett and Driftblim tagging along. With the 2-point penalty, Acerola winds up with a pretty meaty 11 points, with an average of 2.2. As for the kahuna of Dodrio Island, or whatever you want to call it, and actually isn't involved with the Pokemon League is Nanu. Passive-aggressive, but lovable at the same time. Funny enough, that energy carries perfectly into Nanu's Dark-type team. As sure, some of his Pokemon are out for blood, such as UU's Krookodile and RU's Honchkrow, but then some just want to lounge around and relax, like the PU Alolan Persian and Sableye. The outlier in this simile is Absol, who is also PU. Nanu winds up with a total 13 points after penalty, putting him at an average of 2.6. The last island of Alola is a big whatever for me, to be honest. It's great for shiny hunting until it's not, and it just depends on the Pokemon's moveset and how volatile it is. As such, the island just kind of exists, with both Mina and Hapu. Starting with Mina, who's getting the special snowflake treatment it seems like, since she was brought into the Pokemon Let's Go's, we see her team is a joke. At best. Her star is Klefki from UU, which is alright enough alongside NUBL's Ribombee, but then you have Granbull, Shiinotic, and Wigglytuff, all from untiered. Outside of Granbull, I can't imagine what these other 4 Pokemon were supposed to accomplish for Mina, and it just comes off as strange. After a 2-point penalty, she settles with 9.5 points, with an average of 1.9. Finally, both for Alola and the Island Challenge, we have Hapu, who wants to ride her Mudsdale into the sunset. Hapu actually shares her team star with Nanu, that being Krookodile. She also carries Flygon from RU, and 3 PU Pokemon in Golurk, Gastrodon, and Mudsdale. This gives Hapu 13 points, for an average of 2.6. With the last region done, let's look at their power rankings. None of the Elite 4 members actually hit the top 3, which is interesting to me. Anyway, we have 2 ties, those being with Nanu and Hapu, as well as Acerola and Hala. Beginning with the latter, we have a pretty traditional tiebreak. Acerola's peak is in UU thanks to Frostlass, whereas Hala caps RU via Machamp and Beware, giving Acerola the edge. As for Nanu and Hapu, the 2 tie up identically in point spread, so normally we'd look at the usage stats of our highest ranked Pokemon. Only problem is that they share their highest ranked Pokemon in this case, so we'll look at their second highest ranked Pokemon, those being RU's Flygon and Honchkrow. In that scene, Flygon soared up to 12th, while Honchkrow is 31st, meaning Hapu not only breaks the tie, but wins Alola. And with that is the end of the Gym Leaders Power Ranking video. With there being over 70 gym leaders at this point, there's only so much they can do at this point to actually stand out, and seems to be a split between personality and power. Where did your favorite gym leaders rank? Let me know down in the comments and let me know what your gym team would be. Massive thank you to my editor Gabe for helping me out with this massive project, as well as everyone who watched all the way through to this point. I like writing these bigger project videos, so it means a lot if you liked the video. We'll be doing a video for the Pokemon League in the future, and as far as this type of video goes, at most it'll be once a generation. Thank you everyone, enjoy this lovely tune while some additional stat graphics display. This is JoyPals, signing out.